Good morning, this is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for July 6th, 10 a.m. Well, we're keeping an eye on a tropical wave in the Greater Antilles, and we have it zoomed in right now on the tracking map at hurricanecity.com. You choose the Satellite Radar Advisories link right below the main map, and you can pull this image up and zoom in on it. And what I've done is zoomed in on our tropical wave located right here near Hispaniola. But the reason this thing isn't developing, I'm going to give this several reasons why this probably will not develop. The global models are really not developing this at all. And there's several factors. First of all, and most importantly, when you zoom in on this map, you can see the pressures up in here, the blue readings up here. This is 1019 millibars. That's way too high of pressure for a system to develop. Like, you have to have lower pressures so the air rises. When you have higher pressure, it pushes down and really doesn't allow the system to develop very much. And the other problem is with the alignment of this system is there's no high pressure directly over the top of it. And I'll show you an image in just a minute, but generally the high pressure is back in here somewhere, and that's causing southwest flow over the axis of this system, which is somewhere in here. So the system really doesn't have much of a chance of development without high pressure. And also, this thing has a mouth on it. I don't know what that's all about, but I think it's going to go eat some food on the way over there towards Florida, but it's not going to really develop into much of anything. So we'll keep an eye on it for any changes, but it looks like this is not really going to amount to much. Now, if I go to the other source over here, I wanted to show you the new buoy maps that we have at Hurricane City. Right below the main tracking map, you can choose the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic, the North Atlantic, whatever you want to see. But right now we're zoomed in on where this area of disturbed weather is. If you click on the ship right here, you'll see that we have pressure right around 30 inches even. And again, that's a little bit too high for development. Waves only about 3 feet in this area. Water temperature of about 84.2 degrees, and the winds are about 17 knots out of the east. So it is kind of windy out there, but there's really no circulation at all. And again, on the previous image here, the satellite zoom shot, you can also see that the wind barbs at the surface are all out of the east. There are no west winds here, so we do not have a surface low at this time. In fact, the National Hurricane Center makes no mention of this whatsoever in the tropical outlook. All right, let's get to our images here. And first of all, let me mention that the tropical cyclone formation probabilities are 0 for this area. And let me go full screen here and get out of the way. And you'll see that there is no area at all for potential development in this area of the Caribbean. There's a slight risk down in the southwest Caribbean, but all the main action right now is in the East Pacific, as we'll have another system develop there and head off to the west. Now here's the scatterometer winds from the area that's down near the Caribbean, and I know it's kind of hard to see on your screen, but there's winds down here out of the east and northeast, and they're around 15 to 20, 25 knots tops down here, but there's no real circulation right now, and it's pretty close to the mountains of Hispaniola, so even if a circulation did try to develop, it would be disrupted severely by the high mountainous terrain. And again, here's the pressures. This is from sailweather.com, and you notice again 1018, 1019, 1013 down where our system is right now. Just too high of pressures for any system to really get ramped up. Here's a visible shot of our system, and you can see that again, there looks like there's some sort of a rotation going on here, but I think it's a trick of the fact that the pressures around it are causing it to look this way. And I'll get to the details on that in just a minute. But when you have ridges and troughs on either side of it, it can give it the appearance of a spin, but there's not a spin going on there at the surface. Here's the current wind shear analysis, and you'll see that the wind shear is rather high in the affected areas here. We have 25 knots of shear slicing right through this system, so it's got southwesterly wind shear, and there's a reason for that, and that's because there's a upper level low that's forming in the Bahamas. I'll show you the vapor loop on that in just a minute. Here are the pressures at the 350 millibar level. This is about maybe 30,000 feet up in the atmosphere, and we have a high pressure ridge just behind our tropical wave that I was pointing out earlier. And that causes southerly winds pretty strong out in front of this, which is kind of shearing it. The high pressure needs to be directly over this system. Plus, we have this large high pressure over the Midwest out here. It's been causing all those roasting temperatures in the Midwest, and that's causing the winds to be out of the north and northeast in advance of the system. Now what happens when you have a pattern like this is you have weakness right in here, and there's a trough that's developing here, an upper level low that's probably going to increase the wind shear over the coming days, although the models don't really indicate that. But I'll show you a vapor loop in just a minute that might indicate that we're going to see an upper level low forming there, and that's going to prevent this system from developing. In fact, let me go ahead and show you that right now, because I do have that loop going. Here we are looking at the water vapor loop, and you'll notice right here in the Bahamas, if I stop it on the last frame, you'll notice this black area here of dry air, and that's the beginnings of an upper level low. And you'll see that when you put it in motion, if you play the water vapor loop, you'll see that low is going to start ramping up, and then it's going to cause even more southwesterly shear out in front of this, which is why the models probably are backing off on any potential development of this system. While I have this image looping up here, I want to show you all this dry air out here east of the Lesser Antilles out here. Look at all that. I mean, this is completely dry, sinking air. Nothing's going to develop under that kind of a pattern. So basically, things should stay quiet for a while here. Here's the African dust situation, and normally this time of the year you don't see development out in the East Atlantic. It's just impossible to get systems. I mean, occasionally you'll get a July system out here, but look at all the red air. Red air is all African dust and dry air, and that's pretty much dominating the East Atlantic right now. So it's not quite time yet for its development out in the East Atlantic. Plus, the sea surface temperatures are below 80 degrees. Generally, you like to see around 80 for a system to develop. But notice how dry Africa is out here in this shot. This is what's really surprising. I mean, out here, there's basically just one tropical wave ready to come out. And you need to have these things line up maybe every few hundred miles or so across Africa, so that when they come out here, they break down this Saharan air layer out here. They break it down and moisten up the atmosphere, and then that happens a little bit later in the hurricane season, but it's not going to happen right now. And that's about it. Again, on the front page of Hurricane City, utilize those maps. They're pretty cool. You can change different maps. And by the way, the buoy maps that I showed you, in fact, let me go back to that buoy shot one more time and just show you that when these buoy maps are not just for buoy use only in ships, but when the models are active, the models will be on these buoy pages, these buoy images, so that you'll be able to see where the center of a circulation is compared to what the ships and the buoys are showing when there's an area of disturbed weather out there. This will really help a lot when you're trying to keep track of a tropical system. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll be back in a few days if there's any changes in the tropics. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.